Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you our final Power 5 updated predictions video. Today we're taking a look at the ACC, and we've had so many questions and comments and requests to finally go ahead and do the ACC. And as you all know, we were waiting as long as we possibly could to produce this video because we were wanting the remaining ACC teams to schedule their lone non-conference game. And as of right now, every team in the ACC has a non-conference opponent except for Virginia. But in this video, we have factored in a non-conference win for the Cavaliers because we really don't see many opponents that they could schedule that would be capable of taking down Virginia, the reigning Coastal champions. So today we're going to take a look at these updated records, these updated standings as we go into this 2020 season, guys. And remember, if you want extra analysis on these teams, if you want deeper analysis on these games, make sure to go check out our individual ACC videos, guys. We have every single team, every single game, and we break those down one by one for you guys, just like we're going to try to do here, just maybe not as deep into detail. So let's take a look at these standings. And the first thing you need to remember, guys, is the ACC is doing an 11-game season, 10 conference games, 1 non-conference game, and instead of having 2 divisions, the Atlantic and the Coastal, the top 2 teams within the ACC are now going to be playing for the ACC title. So there are no divisions. There are 15 teams because Notre Dame came over. Obviously, we're an independent. They're joining the ACC just for the season. Because there are 15 teams, you can't divide them out equally, so they're just going to take the top 2 teams within the conference to play for the conference title. Some people like that. Some people don't. Some people were angered by the Notre Dame move over here. Some people liked it. They were in favor of it. You really can't win. Depends on who you talk to. Some people are in favor of this format, but hopefully we will not have to deal with it for very long. But let's take a look at these standings, guys. Of course, it's no surprise we have Clemson up at number 1. A perfect 11-0. 10-0 in conference play. Remember, Notre Dame will count as a conference win or loss for every other ACC team. And we look at Clemson, guys, of course, you've got Dabo Swinney, one of the best coaches in the game right now. You've got Trevor Lawrence, arguably the best quarterback in college football right now. Travis Etienne, Brent Venables, one of the best defensive minds in college football right now. They're stacked from top to bottom. There's really nobody in this conference, guys, that is capable of beating Clemson except for maybe Notre Dame. And that certainly would have been the case before Notre Dame came over to the ACC. They were still scheduled to play in the regular season in South Bend, and we were saying that was Clemson's toughest game back then, and that's certainly their toughest game as of right now, traveling to South Bend, a game that will be very, very close. One of the best of the year, in my opinion, but one that Clemson ultimately will walk away with a win in. So Notre Dame, certainly going to be their toughest test. Virginia Tech in the season finale for Clemson, that's an added game for them when they kind of went and redid all of these schedules. But in the end, the Tigers are going to go undefeated. They just have too much talent there, and that really shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody within the conference. Right below Clemson, we have Notre Dame coming in at 9-2, 8-2 in ACC play. Something crazy about Notre Dame's schedule, guys, if you haven't taken a look at it, it's that the Fighting Irish don't have a true road game until October 24th. They start playing games on September 12th, and Notre Dame does not have a true road game until October 24th. They do have a neutral site game against Wake Forest, but not a true road game at Pittsburgh until October 24th. It's absolutely unbelievable and a huge, huge advantage for Brian Kelly and his Irish. When you look at Notre Dame, their toughest games certainly are against Clemson, at North Carolina, and then, of course, that road game at Pittsburgh, which, when you're acclimated to your home field, your home stadium, whether fans are there or not, could come as a bit of a culture shock for the Fighting Irish. But they are led by one of the better quarterbacks in college football as well, and Ian Book. I am still a fan of Brian Kelly, although I know many Fighting Irish fans are not. And honestly, this is a fantastic year for Notre Dame to, again, contend for the college football playoff. Because everybody kind of dogs on them saying, oh, well, if they lose once, there's no way they get in because they don't have a conference championship. Now they do. They are eligible for the ACC title. We have them making the ACC title, but will 2 losses kick them out? We have those 2 losses coming to Clemson and a road game at North Carolina. Right below Notre Dame, we have North Carolina, the Tar Heels, led by Mac Brown, and one of the best up-and-coming quarterbacks and maybe players in general in the entire country, and Sam Howell, who had an unbelievable freshman season last year. And North Carolina as a whole had an unbelievable season with Mac Brown, his first year back at Chapel Hill. We have the Tar Heels going 8-3, 7-3 in conference play, losing to Florida State on the road, Virginia on the road, and then Miami on the road as well. So some difficult road games there for the Tar Heels, but the offense is going to be loaded yet again. They've returned basically everybody. The defense can be said the exact same thing. Their defense is very stacked from one that really wasn't all that bad in 2019. And North Carolina, guys, we haven't beaten Notre Dame. They do not have to play Clemson, obviously. So if North Carolina were to beat a Florida State, or if they were to beat Virginia, I think that's a game that many were surprised by, then you would have Notre Dame and North Carolina tied at 9-2, and because of that tiebreaker, the Tar Heels would be in the ACC championship game, which is actually what many predicted, including myself, what we predicted if the ACC had been playing under normal circumstances, had you still had an Atlantic and a Coastal Division. So North Carolina, right on the cusp of getting to the ACC title game, they are certainly in for a very, very big year in year 2 under Mac Brown. Below North Carolina, another team tied with them, 8-3, 7-3 in conference play. It's Virginia Tech. The Hokies, led by Justin Fuente. How will they adapt with life after Bud Foster, one of the greatest defensive coordinators in all of college football history? He is now gone, but Fuente does inherit a very, very good team. A big year for him. You've got Hendon Hooker now leading the charge at quarterback. You've got a very solid offense, but the defense is actually going to be what's even better. 10 starters returning on that side of the ball. And I believe Justin Hamilton will do just fine as the new defensive coordinator in Blacksburg. We've got the Hokies, like we said, finishing 8-3 total. They lose at North Carolina. They lose at Pittsburgh. And, of course, they fall at home to Clemson. Although that game is in Blacksburg in the season finale, and it's certainly a game that the Tigers cannot afford to overlook. So after Virginia Tech, guys, you see 4 teams grouped together. 4 teams all grouped together at 7-4, 6-4 in conference play. And I think many will think that's ridiculous. I think it's impossible. How can you have 4 teams all with the exact same record? And better yet, how did you decide to rank them in these conference standings? Well, of course, there are conference tiebreakers that we use to justify putting Louisville ahead of Miami, Florida State, Pittsburgh, and so on. But it is intriguing to see all these teams with the same record. And I think it shows just how competitive the ACC is. The ACC is competitive, guys, but they're not competitive at an elite level, if that makes sense. Everybody dogs on the conference here, guys, but they are improving. And while you don't have many teams within the conference that are at a Clemson-type level, you do have a lot of teams that are competitive among each other within their divisions. We start here with the Cardinals of Louisville, losing to Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, both on the road. Virginia Tech at home, and a road game at Virginia. Scott Satterfield is doing a phenomenal job with the Cardinals, guys, and that offense is going to be one of the most difficult ones to stop, I think, in the country. You've got a very experienced quarterback in Mikhail Cunningham, you've got Javion Hawkins, and you've got Tutu Atwell, making up the big 3 for the Cardinals. And Satterfield kind of came in just like Mac Brown last year, and in year 1, I think surprised a lot of people by getting the Cardinals to an 8-win season. We have them in a position to get another 8-win season if they go in 7-4 and then win their bowl game. Something I do think is extremely possible as long as they can continue to improve on the defensive side of the ball. Louisville can outscore you for sure. They can score a lot of points, but it's really a matter of can Louisville's defense stop your offense? They really weren't able to do that too much last year. That's going to be the thing that Satterfield has to work on the most in 2020. Following the Cardinals, we have Miami, 7-4, 6-4 in conference play as well. Year 2 for Manny Diaz. We've got a lot of second-year coaches here in the ACC. You've got Satterfield, you've got Diaz, you've got Mac Brown. You've got a handful of guys here, along with a few new coaches down at the bottom that we can discuss soon. But you look at Miami here, guys, when are they finally going to be back? That's the million-dollar question, is when can Miami get back to that prominent level of competing for national titles, competing for ACC titles? Manny Diaz hopes to get them there soon. Going 7-4 this year would certainly be a step in the right direction, considering how disappointing last year was, including ending the year on a 3-game losing streak. We know the key for Miami is D'Eriq King. We know D'Eriq King coming over from Houston, the dual threat quarterback. He is the key to Miami's season in 2020. That and their offensive line. Offensive line was abysmal last year. So can D'Eriq King have any sort of protection to find himself some new wide receivers and build some chemistry with these guys relatively quickly? And also, how will the loss of one of the best defensive ends in the country in Gregory Rousseau, how will the loss of him choosing to opt out of this season affect Miami's defense, which once again should be one of the better ones within the ACC and maybe a top 15 unit in the country? I don't think it affects the Hurricanes as much as people think. I do believe D'Eriq King pans out, and I do believe Miami has a shot at an 8-win season. That's something that Miami fans maybe might not get entirely thrilled about, but compared to what it's been in recent years, it is something to get excited about and something to really have you looking forward to in the future. Because Manny Diaz, I do think, is the right man for the job and is building something down in Miami. Below them, Florida State, the big-time rivals of the Hurricanes. They are dealing with a brand-new head coach, and Mike Norvell, coming over from Memphis. He did a fantastic job with the Tigers in the American Athletic Conference, and he's hoping to do the exact same thing with the Seminoles in Tallahassee. And the thing with Mike Norvell is he has a fantastic offensive mind. He's a young coach, so if he pans out, he could be in Tallahassee for a while. But the one thing that really stood out to me was how much Mike Norvell wanted to be at Florida State. He wanted to be with the Seminoles, and he got his wish, and now he's got to make the most of it. He has a very, very talented defense, an experienced defense at that. But the key for Florida State is their quarterback. They've had inconsistent quarterback play for years now. Norvell always got the most out of his quarterbacks during his time at Memphis. Can he do the same here at Florida State? And who will it be under center for Florida State? Will it be a guy like Chubba Purdy, or will it be James Blackman? That's the key for the Seminoles here. Losing at Miami, losing at Notre Dame, losing at Louisville, and then falling at home to Clemson. Following Florida State, we have Pittsburgh, our final 7-4 team in these ACC standings, these updated ACC standings. And Pittsburgh is a team I'm very, very excited to watch this year. A Pittsburgh team that very well could win 7 games like we have them doing, or a Pittsburgh team that can maybe win as much as 8 or 9. I know there's only 1 or 2 game difference, but that goes a long way. And as you can see, 1 or 2 extra games would propel Pittsburgh all the way up to ACC title contention. The Panthers had one of the better defenses in the country last year, especially when it came to getting to the quarterback. Pat Narduzzi's got to be able to utilize that talent again, and Kenny Pickett has to be able to take an extra step forward at quarterback. He had a fantastic showing in their bowl win over Eastern Michigan, but over the course of the season, he was very sporadic, very inconsistent. How well does he play in 2020? Do they get better quarterback play out of Kenny Pickett? Is he more consistent? And is the defense as difficult to go up against as they were last year? I believe they are, and I believe that they very well could pull off an upset against the likes of Notre Dame, maybe Miami, maybe Florida State, all of which we had them losing to along with Clemson. Pittsburgh, don't sleep on them. If I was picking a team to really surprise this year in the ACC, this middle-of-the-pack team right here in the Panthers would certainly be it. Right after that, Virginia. Remember, we are factoring in that non-conference win into these records for Virginia. We don't know who they're playing yet, but I believe that whoever it is, Bronco Mendenhall and his Cavaliers would take care of them. The Cavaliers are the reigning Coastal champions, and of course we don't have divisions this season, but they are the reigning Coastal champions, and we have them going 6-5, perfect 500 record within the conference. When you look at their schedule, though, guys, it's extremely brutal. First 2 games at Virginia Tech, at Clemson. They also have a road game at Miami, at Florida State. Well, that tells me is that the most winnable games for Virginia are at home this season, and they've got to be able to take advantage of that. They have finally named a starting quarterback in Brennan Armstrong. We figured that's who it was going to be. Bronco Mendenhall just kind of clarifying that for everybody else. And I do believe that he will fill in the shoes nicely for Bryce Perkins, who was basically Virginia's entire offense. So while 6-5 isn't necessarily fantastic, it is still above 500. Even if they lose their bowl game, they are at 500. Last year was a fantastic year for the Cavaliers. First Orange Bowl appearance, first ACC title appearance. They're going to take a step back this year, but Mendenhall can certainly get them back to those very lofty heights and expectations in just a few more short years. After Virginia, you start seeing the teams that are going below 500. We start here with Wake Forest, who just recently lost their top wide receiver, maybe one of the top wide receivers in the country, in Sage Surratt, choosing, just like Gregory Rousseau, to opt out of the college football season, obviously due to coronavirus concerns, and also trying to get ready for the NFL draft. If the season doesn't mean much, if the season were to abruptly come to an end, if you don't get to play in the postseason, whatever the reason may be, why would you risk getting hurt? That's the thought process for some of these players. But the Demon Deacons do lose Surratt, but they still have Sam Hartman at quarterback. And I think a lot of people freaked out, guys. You lose Surratt, you lose Jamie Newman, who is now transferred over to Georgia, and everybody freaked out with Wake Forest. And I was telling people to pump the brakes because they're going to be just fine. Even without Surratt, they're going to be just fine because Sam Hartman is now your quarterback. Hartman had plenty of playing experience before he went down with injuries, and Newman stepped in. So it's not like Hartman has just kind of been thrust onto the scene here and has no experience. He's got plenty of experience, and when he was playing, he was pretty dang good. So Dave Clawson, I think, is one of the more underrated coaches in the ACC. He certainly has the work cut out for him this year, but 5-6 is absolutely good enough to get back to the postseason in 2020. I can't recall what it is now. 4 straight bowl games now for the Demon Deacons, 5 straight bowl games for the Demon Deacons. He's done a fantastic job with Wake Forest. He's going to continue to do so here. And obviously a 5-6 record for Wake Forest, considering the circumstances, would be extremely impressive. We have the Demon Deacons falling to Clemson, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, at North Carolina, at Duke, and at Louisville. Following Wake Forest, Syracuse. The Orange, like Miami, had one of the worst offensive lines within the country and also within the entire ACC. It was abysmal. Tommy DeVito was the most sacked quarterback in the entire country. So you know that DeVito is praying. He's praying that this offensive line just takes a small step forward and slightly improves in 2020. And I do believe they do just that. I do believe Dino Babers rights that ship, and DeVito is not nearly as sacked as much as he was last year. And that's the key for Syracuse here, guys. They have a strong quarterback in DeVito. He's got to find some receivers to whip it out to. They lose a lot of their other offensive playmakers, but having a quarterback with experience, and a good one at that, is beneficial and will go a long way in trying to get the Orange back to a bowl game after winning 10 games in 2018 and missing out on a bowl game last year. One of the biggest step backs for a team in the entire country last year. I do believe Syracuse is right on the border of getting to bowl eligibility. Their schedule does not do them any favors. At North Carolina, at Pittsburgh, at Clemson, at Louisville, at Notre Dame. Have them losing all of those games, but nonetheless should be back in the postseason in 2020. Right after that, guys, you get to your bottom 4. Your bottom 4 out of the 15. And we can kind of breeze through these 4 teams here, guys, because obviously there's a drastic drop-off here. 5-6 to 3-8. There's a 2-game difference here. They are the cellar dwellers, and they are teams that I do believe will get back to relevancy soon. Maybe could get back to the postseason as early as next year. But due to all these changes, we're dealt a horrible, horrible hand in 2020. We begin with North Carolina State going 3-8, 2-8 in conference play. We've got the Wolfpack defeating Duke, Liberty, which is not an easy win, not an easy game at all, and then beating Georgia Tech, who we have pegged as last in the ACC. You look at Dave Doeren, guys, he is certainly on the hot seat, and 3-8 might be enough to get him out of the job with North Carolina State. He's got to find better quarterback play. We know they've got a solid run game, but that's not going to cut it in the ACC. You've got to be able to throw the ball. So does the quarterback play improve? Does Devin Leary improve at QB? Because I feel like he is going to be the starter and certainly the best option on the team. Does the defense complement this offense? Do they help them out at all? Because they were pretty rough last year as well. They were the bright spot. They're probably going to be the bright spot again this year, but it's a very, very dull brightness, guys. So how well does North Carolina State improve across the board? Once again, they were dealt a very difficult hand with the new schedule, and I think Doeren and his squad are in for a tough 2020, one that I personally hope does not affect his job status, again, considering everything that's going on. Below North Carolina State, we have Duke. Same exact record. We just have the Wolfpack defeating the Blue Devils in the regular season, so they own the tie-breaking edge and are ahead of them in the standings. Duke, why were they in headlines so much this offseason? It was because of their transfer quarterback in Chase Bryce, choosing to come over from Clemson to play for the quarterback whisperer David Cutcliffe and the Blue Devils. I have a lot of faith in Bryce. The thing is, we have hardly seen anything out of Chase Bryce in his collegiate career. Outside of garbage time at Clemson and that one time he led them to a comeback victory over Syracuse, we've hardly seen Chase Bryce. I know Cutcliffe does well with new QBs, but I think he'll do extremely well with Chase Bryce next year. And again, a tough schedule for Duke. Strong defense maybe, but outside of Bryce, not much offense to help him out. Next year will be the year that I think Duke breaks through to the postseason. We had them close to it this year before Corona hit. Now we have them very far away from it. 3-8, the wins coming against Boston College, Charlotte, and Wake Forest. And many upset there over the Demon Deacons. And then finally, Boston College and Georgia Tech rounding out the ACC. We've got the Eagles going 2-9 with one conference win. That win, of course, coming against Georgia Tech. They're dealing with a brand new head coach, guys, and Jeff Hafley, but they lose a lot of offensive firepower. They lose Anthony Brown, a very experienced quarterback with the Eagles, now gone to Oregon. They lose A.J. Dillon, their star running back. So now they're going to have to rely heavily on David Bailey, a very, very capable running back, and Phil Jurkovec as well, also a transfer QB from Notre Dame that was given eligibility. So maybe that's enough to give the Eagles a few extra wins than what we have them pegged to get here. But I do think Hafley inherited a very, very poor situation left behind from Steve Adazio. The major rebuilding process, in my opinion, over on Chestnut Hill. And I believe that Boston College will struggle mightily in 2020 and might not be able to get back to the postseason until 2022. Finally, wrapping up the ACC, Georgia Tech, second-year head coach Jeff Collins had a very, very rough time in year one, going just 3-9 with the Yellow Jackets, but winning 2 conference games. That was the weird thing. 3-9, Georgia Tech was terrible, but they did win 2 conference games, one of which came in overtime against Miami. We don't have lightning striking twice here, guys. We have the Yellow Jackets going just 1-10, 1 conference win, 1 overall win, that win coming over Duke. We believe that with Duke, obviously going to be throwing the ball a lot more with Chase Bryce. I believe he has a very horrible day, I should say, against what should be a strong secondary at Georgia Tech. We know that cornerbacks and the defense is kind of what Jeff Collins hones in on. That's his specialty. And I believe that he will have his team ready to go. They're not going winless. They're going to snag a win or two. We have it coming in conference play against Duke. The Yellow Jackets' non-conference game is against Central Florida. And I think despite maybe an improving defense, a lot of returning starters coming back, I think we all know how that non-conference game will go for Collins and his squad. So having said all of that, guys, I know that was a lot to take in, a lot of wins, a lot of losses, a lot of analysis on 15 ACC teams going into 2020. We now have Notre Dame taking on Clemson in the ACC title game. And again, like we said at the beginning of the video, some might be in favor of this. We get to see a rematch between the Fighting Irish and the Tigers after what should be a fantastic matchup in South Bend in the regular season. Some may be angered by this because many believe Notre Dame shouldn't even be here right now. Whatever your side is, you will admit and you will see that this ACC title game will be just as good as the first meeting between these two squads and will be nothing like that college football playoff blowout we saw just a few years ago where Clemson won 30-3. But for the second time in 2020, Clemson will defeat Notre Dame. If Notre Dame cannot win the game in South Bend, and I do not think they will, I don't think they're going to be able to win on a neutral site. It makes sense. If you can't win at home, I don't think you can win away from home, even though it's not a true road game. So the Fighting Irish, they get what many people have wanted them to get. They've gotten their opportunity, a chance at a conference championship game. They win it, they're 10-2. They are still in the thick of college football playoff discussion because of how many teams are not playing this year. If they get a win over North Carolina, they are 10-1. They are certainly in the thick of college football playoff discussion. But the Fighting Irish fail to take advantage of the opportunity given before them. We have them falling to 9-3 on the year. Clemson, a perfect 12-0 ACC champions, and will make the college football playoff yet again under Dabo Swinney if, of course, we have a college football playoff. But guys, here you have it. our new updated ACC record projections for the 2020 season. The season for the ACC will kick off on September 12th, but week 1 of college football begins this Thursday, September 3rd, and we couldn't be more happy to continue to bring you news, analysis, and updates for all these games coming our way in a very short amount of time. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Check out everything down in the description as well, where you can follow us on our social media pages over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also support us on our website with our newsletter and our expert picks, and even our new Patreon account as well, where you can get exclusive content and videos and debates with me that you will not receive right here on YouTube. So go check out all those links down in the description. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.